This meeting is for 1 hour. Marlon H will be sharing on there is a direct link among self-examination, meditation and prayer for 50 minutes. Marlon, thank you for your service at this meeting and your willingness to share your life with us today. We appreciate you. At this time, please help me give a warm welcome to Marlon from Venice, California, whose home group is What the Hell Am I Doing Here on a Saturday Night? I love that. Welcome, Marlon.
Hey, my name's Marlon. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you guys for having me. Seems like a beautiful group. 50 minutes is a long time for a person like me to share, but I'll try to pull it off. That's a lot of ego, 50 minutes. Whew. So let me just get right into it. Page 100, 12 and 12, step 11. There's a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Now and then we may be granted a glimpse of the ultimate reality, which is God's kingdom, and we will be comforted and assured that our own destiny in that realm will be secure for as long as we try, however falteringly, to find and do the will of our Creator. So how I came to pick that as my topic is that we were going back and forth in emails. At that time, that's where I was. I was reading step 11 to 12 and 12. I'm not a topic speaker. I'm not a circuit speaker. So when someone asks me to choose a topic, I get like baffled. You know, I'm just an alcoholic with alcoholism, you know, and I try my best to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, my sobriety date is 12/29/1992, and I'll be forever grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous and the people of Alcoholics Anonymous for carrying me thus far. I don't know. It's like I always talk about the two powers in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's this power that you guys were calling God when I got here, and there was this power of this fellowship that I had become a part of, and it was for me, for the first 6 months of my sobriety, it was the fellowship that was the power, man. It was the people. It was my sponsor. It was people who had gotten sober before me. I remember me and my friend John, we would follow around these great speakers, man. These guys were giants in my life, and I'm one of those guys that got sober on the shoulder of giants. You know, these guys, that Sam Hanna, Roger and Michael, and man. These guys were phenomenal. And what I know now and what I didn't know then is that they had what you guys were calling a spiritual awakening. You know, I'm the proud son of two parents who shot heroin for the first 15 years of my life. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the reason why I'm sharing before you this morning. You know, see, it was always me making a conscious decision to do something which made me feel good. And how I know that I wasn't born this way, or I feel as if I wasn't born this way, is I have a brother who's 10 months older than me, and he never made the decisions that I made. He was a guy that got straight A's throughout elementary, junior high, high school, went off to college and got a college degree, and, you know, he lives his life well. But me, Marlon, I started, smoking marijuana while I was 9 years old, yellow zigzags, sifting, I made those decisions because those type of things were in my household. And in my household, on the back of every spoon was black. You know, as far back as I can remember, because I'm at the point in my recovery where I'm at now, I can remember as a child developing what you guys call resentments. And my first resentment was against my mom, and that resentment came as a result of making this beautiful Santa Claus for my mom on this Christmas holiday. You know, kids, we do these projects in school, and we bring these projects home to our parents. And I brought this Santa home to my mom, and it had a beautiful cotton beard and a beautiful hat with a cotton tip. And, I'd be sitting on that side of the room. My brother would be sitting on this side of the room, and I would be seeing Mom reach back and pick the cotton off Santa's beard. She would be using the cotton to shoot dope. And as a child, what do you do with that? When you resent something, or you get a resentment and you don't know what that is, you begin to relive that thing over and over and over again until you do something about it. And for me, what I chose to do was to drink. Right. I chose to numb the pain without even knowing it, without even making a conscious decision that's what I was doing because of something somebody else did. Even though it was my mother, it was me making the decision to drink. And I did that, man. I did that all throughout junior high, all throughout high school, and I paid the cost. I paid the price for that, man. And I don't know where that invisible line was you guys talk about or when I crossed that invisible line, but it seems as if I crossed it. I got to a point in my life where I couldn't stop even if I wanted to, man. My first rehab was July of 1990, and I'll never forget going into that place and being in that place. And when I got in there, they said, you seem kind of nervous. Your heart rate is high. Would you like a Valium? I said, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? So I thought that the rehab was the program of recovery. I thought that the rehab was the place that I get better at. I didn't understand that the rehab was just a place to rest the mind. And I'm the type of person that could rest my mind for 28 days. And on the 29th day, when they coin me out, I'm drunk. I get home and I got these disability checks from my job, and I'm drunk, man. And I didn't know what this thing was. I didn't know how to look at this thing called alcoholism. I didn't want to stop first and foremost. There was no way, 20 years old. Now, you want me to stop drinking now? I'm just starting to have fun. And, like the big book says, I would one day come to form that thing that would just boomerang and just tear me to shreds. And I went into my next rehab. I was about 21 years old at this time, and it was in the Valley. I'll never forget. It was co-ed. They were jumping off the roof into the pool. It was August. It was hot. With beautiful girls. And I said, this is rehab. And, they gave me a list of a menu to order breakfast, lunch, and dinner from. And I thought, man, this is a classy place. You know what I mean? And by the next day, I was like, man, I don't want spaghetti. You know what I mean? You want to see alcoholism? You want to see it again? You see, I have an unsatisfied mind. You can't please me. I don't care who you are. You can't please this mind of mine. It's been destroyed by the use of alcohol, right? It's been warped, right? Warped into such an obsession for destructive thinking that only an act of providence can remove that, can only help me. But I didn't know then what I know now. It wasn't until I went into my third rehab, because of some people that had stayed sober in my second rehab, that continued to call me for 2 years. I'll never forget Charles and Brenda, and I always will be thankful for Charles and Brenda. They were in rehab, that second rehab with me, and they called me for 2 years. And they would even come see me at my house. I remember Charles coming to see me one time. He said, hey, come on, let's walk to the store and get a beer. And I was thinking, I said, man, you're an Alcoholics Anonymous. You can't go to the store and get no beer from me. See, I thought I knew. It's like Liam read at the beginning of the meeting, like, I need to be divorced from what I think I know, right? I need to be completely divorced from what I think I know about Alcoholics Anonymous, because I think Alcoholics Anonymous is one thing, but it's not. See, I didn't know Alcoholics Anonymous was a program of recovery. I didn't know that it was a fellowship of people, right? I didn't know that there was these 12 steps, right? I didn't know that there was this program of recovery. I would just hear you guys talking. It just sounds so foreign to me. You were talking about 12 steps. You were talking about God. And when you said God, I heard Santa Claus. And I was like, these people believe in Santa Claus. How is this going to help me, right? It wasn't until I met my sponsor. My sponsor's name is Anderson Broussard III, and I'll be forever grateful to Anderson for introducing me to the program of recovery in action, right? In application, giving me direction, not suggestions. Direction, right? Never suggesting anything to me, right? Directing me. He would say to me things like, if you expect me to save your life, Mar, you in trouble. You in trouble, man. And I'd be thinking, man, a sponsor's supposed to help you save your life. And he'd be looking at me like, man, you better get a God. And I'm like, a God? It was like mythical to me, right? Because the only God that I knew or ever thought about was when, my grandmother, who was a Buddhist, would be chanting, Namya Ringekel, Namya Ringekel, and she'd have like fruit and incense and, this this Gahanza, where she would be chanting. And then my other grandmother was a Christian, and she'd have this picture of this white Jesus on the mirror. And I never forget asking her one day, Granny, why you got that picture of that white man on your mirror? And she simply said to me, that's Jesus, baby. See, it took me to get to Alcoholics Anonymous to begin to understand this concept of this power much greater than myself, right? Or this concept that no matter how inadequate this power is that I choose, it's enough to make a beginning. Because my grandmother and my great-grandmother, they had to start somewhere with this power. They made a beginning in their lives, and they had a relationship with this power. But I couldn't see that until I got some clarity, until I started going through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with this sponsor. And the way the big book came alive and the way he broke down, like step one, I'm powerless over alcohol. Dash, and my life is unmanageable. And he would talk to me and he would say that these are not working steps. These are thinking steps. Step one and step two. He would talk to me about the way that my mind operated. See, I thought I came to Alcoholics Anonymous to stop drinking. He would say, no, you came here to learn how not to start drinking. See, if you never started in the first place, you wouldn't even be having this conversation with me. See, this is a disease of the mind. It's also a disease of the body. My mind, I think, drink, and then when I drink, it sets this allergy off inside of me that I can't control. And I wonder why I end up in handcuffs. I end up in these different places where I just don't want to be anymore. And man, we took this journey through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. That was beautiful. Right? Because in step one, I saw that when I was raising my hand in rehab saying I was an alcoholic, I was just raising my hand saying I was an alcoholic because everybody around me was doing it. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea that was, I was saying to myself and other people around me that I was going to die. I was going to kill myself with alcohol. I had to move on with Anderson. We had to get to step two. I had to come to believe in the power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity. And what he was saying to me is that, Mar, you're not insane. You're just not whole. You're not crazy. You're sick. You're not whole. So I had to come to believe in the power that could restore me to sanity because I believed in me so much. I had been walking around as a power, and my power didn't work. The book says lack of power is my dilemma. And the dilemma that I had at that point in time in my life was a dilemma is two unfavorable choices. I choose this spiritual life or I go on drinking. That's a hard decision to make when you got, 30 days, 35 days. It's very difficult. But with the help of the fellowship and the help of the sponsor, man, I was able to trudge through that, man. Here I am, 23 years old, and it's time to get busy living, and luckily I was surrounded by people that were heavily into like this program of recovery, heavily into this 12-step process, heavily into doing workshops, heavily into doing book studies. And I just got involved. I jumped right in, man. And I went to a lot of meetings. I heard you guys talking about meetings earlier and you could do too much AA. But when you come in Alcoholics Anonymous like me and you come in young, there's never too much AA. There's never too many meetings because I have a mind that just won't stop. I need meetings. I need them now. I need them in the morning. I need them at noon, and I need them at night. You see, I got sober December 29th. So in that time, there was my buddy Al is on here, and he got sober during the Christmas too. And see, we need these marathons. I need to be sitting in a meeting. I'm talking about 10, 12 hours, man, because I don't know how you drink. But the way that I drink, if I leave, I'm drunk because I get drunk over my feelings. I don't know what I think. I don't know how to think logically. I don't know how to think that if I leave here, I'm a drink. I think I'm gonna be okay. But I had lost the power of choice, you see. And if I were not surrounded by the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and the people of Alcoholics Anonymous, and this thing that you guys were calling God at the time, I would have been in trouble. I made a decision to turn my thinking and my actions over to the care of this power. And I did the prayer and I held my sponsor's hands and we went right into action. We went right into inventory. We went right into the writing process. He's a sponsor that's all in. At the time, he was all in with me. He was with me. You see, there wasn't no letting me go. There wasn't no letting me go and let's go home and write. Let's get right down to it, Mark. I'm resentful at my mother. Why? Because she shot dope for the first 15 years of my life. And what does it affect? It affects my ambition, my personal relationship with others. See, I started looking inside really, really early in my sobriety, and I didn't know what an inside job was. I kept hearing it from the podium, but I began to have that experience of, oh, this is how these people are looking inside of themselves. The inventory. I look at all these things and this resentment against my mom and how it affects me, and I can't see my part. And me and Anderson are sitting down, we talking, we chatting. You know, I'm 23 years old. My mother hadn't shot dope in about 7 or 8 years, you know what I mean? And I'm still blaming her. I'm supposed to be a man, and I'm blaming my mother for something that she did. And Anderson looks at me and he said, there's a spiritual axiom that whenever I have a bad thought about anybody, it affects me. You see, I can't think badly or wrongly about anybody because it affects me. And we read it earlier in the 12, when someone read the 12 steps, that these principles, these steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which if practiced as a way of life will enable me to suffer, to become happily and hopefully, whole. And I didn't know what that meant. I hadn't had that experience yet of becoming whole, or even working or practicing principles in application, knowing what that, I didn't know what that meant, but I was watching people, and I began to do that. Every day was a day I was practicing step one. I didn't know it. Every day that I stayed sober, I was practicing step one. My life was still unmanageable, believe me, because I was still managing it, but I was still practicing. This is a practicing step at this time. Right? I was practicing step two. I was coming to believe in a power greater than myself that can restore me to sanity. And I was turning this thing over by looking at me. The process of the magic magnified or being on me. But there was something I hadn't done yet. Sit down with another man and become extremely honest. Extremely honest, right? The three main ways that an alcoholic walks around the face of the earth. I'm resentful, I'm in fear, and my sexual conduct is way out of whack. I had never sat across the room from another man and discussed these things. And I sat across the room from Anderson. I read him my fifth step, and he was going, me too. See, I don't know if that happened to you. He was shaking his head, yeah. And he would share with me some of his stuff, right? And I said to him, I said, man, I'm not alone. I don't feel alone anymore. I thought only these things happened to me, right? I'm so selfish. I'm so self-centered. I started to become aware of the disease of alcoholism, that it wasn't the drink. It was the think. I became clearly aware that I was always thinking about what you were thinking about me. I'm so self-centered. I'm so defective. And I can't do anything about it. Which leads me to step 6, man. I look at these things and I'm ready to have God or whatever, Santa Claus, take these things away, because I'm not really believing. I'm just going with the flow, right? I'm just faking it till I make it. And that's very painful for an alcoholic. Very, very painful. I'm hanging out with Anderson and we're looking at step 7, man. And, there's a difference between 6 and 7. 6, I can't do anything about, but I look at 7 and, he threw a toothpick on the ground, and I'll never forget him saying, aren't you going to pick that toothpick up, Mark? He calls me Mar. And I'm like, no, that toothpick's been in your mouth. And he says, they told me don't cuss on this, so I'm not going to cuss. He says, stuff you can do that you just won't do. You get it? See, I got the ability in step 7 to do these things I can do that I just won't do. I can pick that toothpick up, right? I can clean up at meetings. I can make coffee at meetings, right? I can do these things. But I have a mind that tells me, oh, somebody else is going to do it. I've come to learn and come to believe that these commitments that we have here in Alcoholics Anonymous, if we knew what these commitments do for us, we would be fighting to do these commitments, because they're a big, big part of the spiritual life, man. See, the spiritual life is not a theory. It's a way that we live. If you're alcoholic like me, and it's not about like not drinking, it's about becoming whole, right? And it's about becoming useful to somebody like me that walks in at a young age, right? that I could reach my hand out and say, man, I could help you if you really want to stop. I got a couple of sponsees on here, and we've been given a beautiful gift here in Alcoholics Anonymous, the ability to help another alcoholic when no one else can. Have you ever thought about that? When no one else can help, Anderson reached out to me and he pulled me right into the fellowship. Right? It wasn't the rehab, man. It wasn't the rehab. It wasn't my grandmother, the Buddhist. It wasn't my great-grandmother who had been praying for me. And I'm not saying those things don't work. But what I'm saying is that the individual that's properly armed with some facts about himself can genuinely win the confidence of another when no one else can. That's because we've been to hell, and we on our way to heaven. Stairway to heaven, not on the elevator, not on the broken elevator. We taking steps. And I make that list in 8, man, and I go out to make these amends. And my first amends, of course, is to my mama, because I'm here to tell you, black men don't really say they hate their mama. It's just not something that's bred in us. We love our moms no matter what they do, how they act, you know what I mean? But here in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to say that. I was able to say I'm resentful at my mom, right? I was able to walk through that and to walk through like this amends and practice this amends with my sponsor and go on a Sunday after my mom had got home from church. She was listening to some Al Green, cooking some greens and smoking a joint. I'll never ever forget. And I said, Mom, sit down. I need to talk to you so I don't get drunk again. And she said, oh, some of those AA classes, huh? She calls these things that we go to, these meetings, these talks, classes. And I get it, and I said, Mama, I need you to forgive me for the way I thought about you all these years. And she broke down like a baby, man. She had been looking for a way to tell her youngest son or to ask her youngest son for forgiveness. But it was Alcoholics Anonymous, step 9, right? This roadmap for living, this design for living that put me in that position to be able to ask my mom to forgive me. And she couldn't believe it. She just started crying, man. She had been looking for a way to forgive me, but it was me that needed to forgive her. Because, see, I'm the one in Alcoholics Anonymous raising my hand. I'm the alcoholic with alcoholism, right? I'm the one that needs to get better. I don't know what my mom needs to do, right? I don't know what Al needs to do, right? But I know that these steps were written for a person like me. And my mother, I'll never forget, she went in the room and she brought back a 12 and 12 and a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, not even knowing that step 9 is in those books or what's in those books. I don't even think she ever opened up those books, but she had gotten those books from a rehab that she had been through, not knowing that what I was doing had come from those books. You see, God is infinite wisdom. And I'm still not a believer. I'm here to tell you. I did this amends, man, and I'm driving home and I call my sponsor and I say, man, there is a God. And he just started laughing. Because what struck me is the great reality, right? That deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental ideal of God. Therein lies the great reality. Although it's blocked by these circumstances that we grew up with or that we try to hold on to. Like when we let all of that go, the Spirit begins to shine through me. It begins to come through me. It's a true and living God. It's not this God that I thought, like was in the sky. I had to jump on my knees, or I had to find. This is just a wholehearted search for this power, and I continue to search for this power. And now, so we can look at this direct linkage amongst self-examination, right? Which is to me, and which is like the inventory looking at me, right? The meditation, which is something that I acquired during the pandemic, spending time with myself. Before these Zoom meetings started, I had nothing. We just had like a phone call, calling our buddies. Man, they stopped the meetings. There's no more meetings to go to. And I'm picking up the phone and I'm talking to my friends and, all of a sudden Zoom starts. Now I'm going to Zoom meetings all over the world, right? And listening in to other alcoholics just like me. See, God in his infinite wisdom, he made a way for people like me and you. And during these Zoom meetings, I remember when I work at night and I was on my way to work, and after one Zoom meeting, something just told me, man, get on your knees. I'm not a praying on my knees type of guy. I never have been. But since the pandemic, it's like intuitively I drop to my knees and pray before I go to work every night. And this came as a result of this meditation, of this being quiet, having to be quiet, because I like to move. I like to go to meetings. I like to be out there, right? I like to be doing stuff. And the pandemic slowed me down. And I start praying and I start meditating, just spending quiet time with myself. First, it was 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. Then it became 5 and 10 minutes, right? And then I started to get quiet and inspired. And I started to look at this thing called meditation and what it does for a person like me. And how step 11 says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with this power. And I began to live like this. But looking at, and then looking at step 10 and starting to realize that step 10 is a living step. It's not like I was doing step 10 like when I go to bed at night. And I started to read the big book and I started to realize that step 10 is a step that I carry with me throughout the day, because I'm not making mistakes at night. I'm not getting into trouble when I'm in bed at night. I'm not young like I was when I got here, so I don't get in trouble in bed at night no more. So this is a living throughout the day step, this step 10, right? This is making a mistake and then really properly going to that individual and saying, hey, I did this, or, can you forgive me? I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You gave me too much change, or whatever it may be. Finding the wallet and give it back right away instead of holding on. This is a living step, right? This is practical application in step 10. Step 11 is when I retire at night, so that I could see and get inspired and grow in this thing called consciousness. So there is a direct linkage amongst prayer, meditation, and what has happened to a person like me is that some things have happened in my life, right? With my children, with my job, outside things that I'm just not affected by at all. Not meaning that I don't feel them, that I don't have I don't think they're problems. But I just remember that early on, the book was designed for me to find a power that would solve my problem. See, I don't have to solve the problem. For a long time, I thought it was me. I had to do something. But during this prayer and meditation stage, I began to realize that this power that I call God today, this same power that brought this relationship back with mother and son, right, is the same power that solves all my problems today. I can't think about what problem I had last year at this time or what I was going through. Because of the prayer and the meditation and you people, the problem doesn't exist anymore. It's like the drink; it's been removed, right? I've been placed in a position of neutrality where I don't argue or fuss or fight with anybody anymore about anything. I cease fighting. I don't have to touch the hot stove over and over and over again. I touch it once, it burns, man, that burns, that hurts. Please forgive me, right? God be with me. Will you be with me? And what's happening here is that I'm more and more realizing that my total dependence has to be upon this power. I can't have these false dependencies upon people, upon things, upon job. You know what I mean? I have to have this total dependency upon this thing that I call God, that I've found here in Alcoholics Anonymous. If it not be for the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, there would be no God in my life. There wouldn't be. Because it was that book that I thought I knew. Like, a book is going to introduce me to God. You guys are crazy. But it was that book. It was you people. I don't know how much longer I have. I can't see the timer. but I'm not like a long talking type of guy. It's like I don't want to get into making things up, but I can tell you how my life is today, and hopefully, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging because this is all God's work. I've been brought from
you have 17 minutes.
Woo! That's a long time. I've been brought from a place to a place.
If you finish early, it's all good, brother.
Okay, thank you, because I will. I've been brought from a place to a place. And the 12th step says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I carry this message. See, I'm born and raised right here in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been here since I was 23. And this is all I know. This is how I was taught to share, right? We share in a general way what happened, what it's like, and what it's like now. And that's all I know. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything about the 12 steps. You are to have your own experience with those steps. I just beg of you. I beg that you take those 12 steps, right? The elevator is broken. Take the steps. Because it's a beautiful journey, man. It's a beautiful journey from one place to this place, and I just hope that everyone here has a beautiful, beautiful day and enjoys this power that we have in our life, right? And have, a beautiful experience with that power. Because what I've learned here is that I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And thank God I don't know. That's why it's a one day at a time program. I only have to stay sober right now. I can only treat this illness right now, right? And we can only be together as a unit right now. So if you're new, just be new and enjoy being new. Thank you guys for having me speak today. Appreciate you.
Marlon, thank you so much for that. That was, that was incredible. The way you flowed through the book, the steps, the simplicity and the beauty of how you describe your journey then was awesome. I'm super grateful that you came to be with us this evening. Awesome. I think, let me just end record.